What if I told you that the most powerful anti-aging secrets on Earth aren't locked inside expensive skincare labs or hidden behind $500 cream jars, but growing quietly in soil that's thousands of years old? Most people are spending fortunes on serums and supplements while ancient healers already knew exactly which plants slow down aging at the cellular level, and modern science is finally catching up to what they discovered. Today I'm showing you 15 plants that traditional cultures have used for centuries to stay younger, sharper, and stronger for longer. And stick around, because number 7 on this list contains more nutrients than almost any food on Earth. And number 15 was so powerful that Chinese emperors kept it completely forbidden from common people. Let's get into it. Let's start with a plant that warriors, kings, shaman, and healers have trusted for over 3,000 years. And when you hear what it does to the aging process, you'll understand exactly why. Ashwagandha. The name itself comes from Sanskrit meaning smell of a horse, not because it smells like one, but because ancient healers believed it gave you the strength and vitality of a horse. And in Ayurvedic medicine, which is one of the oldest medical systems in human history, ashwagandha wasn't just another herb on a shelf. It was considered the most powerful rejuvenating plant in existence, given to elderly people to restore their youth, given to warriors before battle to sharpen their minds and strengthen their bodies. This single root was trusted to do what nothing else could: turn back the clock. But here's where it gets interesting. Because modern science decided to actually test these ancient claims, and the results were hard to ignore. Research suggests that ashwagandha may support the body's ability to manage cortisol, the stress hormone that quietly accelerates aging from the inside. When cortisol stays chronically elevated, it breaks down muscle, damages skin, clouds the brain, and speeds up cellular aging faster than almost anything else. Ashwagandha has been studied for its possible role in helping the body regulate this process naturally. Studies also suggest a possible connection between ashwagandha and improved energy levels, better sleep quality, and sharper cognitive function, all things that decline as we age. Traditional Ayurvedic practitioners historically used it as a root powder mixed with warm milk before sleep as a nightly anti-aging ritual. Now, this isn't magic, and always consult a qualified medical professional before making any decisions about your health. But what's remarkable is that something used 3,000 years ago to restore vitality is still being studied and respected by researchers today. That's not coincidence. That's a plant that earned its reputation. Now let's talk about a plant so powerful that ancient healers called it liquid gold. And once you understand what it does inside your body, you'll never look at it the same way again. Turmeric. This bright golden root has been used in Ayurvedic and traditional Chinese medicine for over 4,000 years. But here's what most people don't know. In ancient India, turmeric wasn't just a cooking spice sitting in someone's kitchen. It was a sacred healing substance. Brides rubbed it on their skin before weddings for a glowing complexion. Warriors applied it to battle wounds to prevent infection. Elderly healers drank it daily, believing it kept their minds sharp and their bodies strong well into old age. This wasn't superstition. This was thousands of years of careful observation, passed down through generations who watched it work. And modern science decided to investigate why. Researchers identified a compound inside turmeric called curcumin, and what they found was remarkable. Research suggests a possible connection between curcumin and the body's natural inflammatory response. Why does that matter for aging? Because chronic inflammation is now understood by scientists as one of the primary drivers of the aging process itself. It quietly damages cells, stiffens joints, clouds thinking, mind, and breaks down the systems that keep us looking and feeling young. Traditional records indicate that turmeric was historically used for joint discomfort, skin health, and mental clarity, exactly the areas where aging hits hardest. Studies also suggest curcumin may support brain health by possibly helping protect neurons from age-related decline. Ancient practitioners who mixed turmeric with black pepper and warm oil weren't just following tradition. They were unknowingly creating a preparation that modern research now recognizes as genuinely effective at improving absorption. 4,000 years of trust. And science is still catching up to everything this golden root may offer. Next up is a plant so valuable that emperors built entire trade empires around it. Imagine a plant so rare and so powerful that emperors sent armies into dangerous mountains just to find it. A plant that was considered more valuable than gold in certain periods of history. A plant that common people were forbidden from touching because rulers believed it held the secret to eternal youth. That plant was ginseng, and its story is one of the most fascinating in the entire history of natural medicine. For over 5,000 years, ginseng has been at the center of traditional Chinese and Korean medicine. Ancient healers didn't just use it occasionally. They built their entire understanding of longevity around it. The root itself is remarkable to look at. It grows slowly, taking sometimes 6 years to mature, and its shape often resembles a human body. The ancient practitioners believed this was nature's way of signaling exactly what it was meant to heal. The whole person, from the inside out. Chinese emperors consumed ginseng daily as part of their anti-aging rituals. Korean royal courts kept private ginseng gardens guarded by soldiers. This wasn't luxury. This was medicine that the most powerful people on earth refused to live without. And when you look at what modern research is beginning to uncover, their obsession starts to make complete sense. Research suggests a possible connection between ginseng and the body's natural energy production at the cellular level. Studies indicate it may support cognitive function, physical stamina, and immune strength, all systems that gradually weaken as aging progresses. Our traditional records indicate ginseng was historically used to restore vitality in elderly patients who had lost their energy and mental sharpness. Practitioners described it as waking up a body that had started to slow down. There's also research suggesting a possible connection between ginseng compounds called ginsenosides and the body's stress response system, the same system that, when overloaded, accelerates visible and internal aging dramatically. Always consult a qualified medical professional before making any decisions about your health. But understand this: when emperors and common people across 5,000 years of history agreed on one plant above all others, that plant deserves your attention. Next on this list is a plant that ancient Greek scholars wore as crowns on their heads. Iraq, and what it does to your brain as you age will genuinely surprise you. There's a small village in southern Italy called Acciaroli, and what makes this village extraordinary is that it has one of the highest concentrations of people over 100 years old anywhere on Earth. Researchers flew in to study them. They examined their diet, their lifestyle, their genetics, and one thing kept showing up consistently in their daily lives that nobody expected: rosemary, fresh rosemary, used in almost every single meal. Now that's not a coincidence, that's a pattern, and it connects directly to something ancient Greek scholars understood thousands of years ago. Greek students wore rosemary garlands on their heads during examinations, believing it sharpened their memory and cleared their thinking. Ancient healers burned it in sick rooms to purify the air. Each traditional Mediterranean cultures used it daily not just as a flavoring, but as a plant they genuinely believed kept the mind strong and the body resilient well into old age. Modern research is now investigating exactly why. Studies suggest a possible connection between rosemary compounds and the brain's ability to protect itself from age-related cognitive decline. One compound in particular, called carnosic acid, has been studied for its potential role in supporting healthy brain function. Research also suggests rosemary may support circulation, and healthy circulation means your brain and skin receive the oxygen and nutrients they need to stay young and functional. Traditional records indicate rosemary was historically used for memory problems, fatigue, and as a hair and scalp treatment to maintain thickness and strength, two things aging consistently attacks. Ancient practitioners made rosemary-infused oils and applied them directly to the scalp and skin as part of daily anti-aging rituals. Here's what's powerful about rosemary: it's not exotic, it's not expensive, it's not hidden, it's sitting in gardens and grocery stores everywhere. Yet the people living past 100 in that Italian village have been using it their entire lives. Sometimes the most powerful anti-aging plant isn't the rarest one. Sometimes it's the one you've been walking past your entire life without realizing what it really is. Next is a plant whose secret was guarded by an entire civilization for centuries. There's a question that scientists have been trying to answer for decades. Why do Japanese people consistently live longer than almost every other population on Earth? Japan has one of the highest concentrations of centenarians in the world. Researchers have studied their diet, their culture, their genetics, and one habit keeps appearing so consistently across every region, every age group, and every generation that it's impossible to ignore. They drink green tea every single day, multiple times a day, for their entire lives. This isn't a modern wellness trend. This is a tradition that goes back over 1,000 years in Japanese culture. Samurai warriors drank it before battle to achieve a state of calm, focused alertness. Buddhist monks drank it during long meditation sessions to stay mentally sharp for hours without restlessness. Ancient Japanese healers prescribed it for everything from digestive problems to skin conditions to what they described as premature aging. The entire culture built a formal ceremony around this single plant because they understood instinctively that it was doing something profound inside the body. Modern research is now beginning to explain what ancient Japanese healers observed for centuries. Green tea contains compounds called catechins, particularly one called EGCG, that researchers have studied extensively for their potential role in protecting cells from oxidative damage. Research suggests a possible connection between these compounds and the slowing of cellular aging processes. Oxidative stress is now understood as one of the primary mechanisms through which aging damages the body from the inside out. And green tea has been studied more than almost any other plant for its possible role in addressing this process. Studies also suggest a possible connection between regular green tea consumption and cardiovascular health, brain function, and metabolic efficiency, all systems that aging gradually weakens over time. Traditional records indicate Japanese healers historically used green tea for mental clarity, skin health, and overall vitality in elderly populations. The samurai who drank it before battle weren't just following ritual. They were protecting themselves with one of the most researched anti-aging plants in human history. And the best part? It's available everywhere, right now, waiting for you. Next is a plant that an Egyptian queen trusted with her most precious possession, her appearance. Cleopatra was considered one of the most beautiful women in the ancient world, and historians who studied her daily routines discovered something fascinating. She didn't use exotic mineral powders or rare animal extracts as the foundation of her beauty ritual. She used a simple succulent plant that grew abundantly in the Egyptian desert, a plant so common that ordinary people walk past it every day without giving it a second thought. She used aloe vera every single day on her face, her skin, her hair, and she credited it as the foundation of everything. But Cleopatra wasn't alone in this understanding. Ancient Egyptian medical texts dating back 4,000 years describe aloe vera as the plant of immortality. And Alexander the Great reportedly conquered the island of Socotra specifically to secure its aloe supplies for his wounded soldiers. Ancient Chinese healers called it the harmony remedy. Traditional healers across Africa, the Middle East, and Asia independently arrived at the same conclusion across thousands of years and thousands of miles of distance. This plant heals skin, slows visible aging, and does something inside the body that ordinary plants simply cannot. Modern research is now investigating exactly what ancient healers observed. Studies suggest a possible connection between aloe vera compounds and the skin's natural collagen production process. Collagen is the structural protein that keeps skin firm, elastic, and young-looking, and its production declines steadily with every passing year of aging. Research also suggests aloe may support the skin's natural moisture retention ability, which directly affects how aged or how youthful skin appears to the eye. Traditional records indicate aloe was historically used topically for skin aging, wound healing, and maintaining complexion clarity well into old age. Ancient practitioners split fresh leaves and applied the clear gel directly as a daily skincare ritual that required nothing more than the plant itself. Here's what strikes me most about aloe vera. 4,000 years of human civilization independently discovered and trusted the same plant, from Egyptian queens to Chinese healers to African traditional medicine. That level of agreement across that much time and distance isn't coincidence. That's truth. Next is the plant I promised you at the beginning. Number 7. And it genuinely earns everything I'm about to say about it. Okay, I promised you this one at the beginning, and I want you to understand something before I even tell you what it is. Everything we've discussed so far, ashwagandha, turmeric, ginseng, rosemary, green tea, aloe vera, Every single one of them is remarkable in its own right. But this next plant does something that stopped researchers cold when they first began studying it seriously. Because the numbers didn't make sense. The nutrient density was so extraordinary that scientists initially questioned their own data. This is moringa. And once you understand what's inside this single plant, you'll understand why entire civilizations built their survival around it. Moringa oleifera grows in tropical and subtropical regions and has been used in traditional medicine across India, Africa, and Southeast Asia for over 4,000 years. Ancient Ayurvedic texts describe moringa as capable of preventing and treating over 300 diseases. Ancient Indian healers called it the miracle tree. African traditional medicine practitioners planted it near villages, specifically so that elderly people and young children always had access to it. This wasn't casual use. This was a plant that entire communities depended on for survival and vitality across multiple generations. And here's what made researchers stop and look twice. Moringa leaves contain an extraordinarily dense concentration of nutrients in a single source. Traditional records indicate it was historically used to address malnutrition, restore energy in aging populations, support skin health, and maintain mental sharpness in elderly community members who consumed it regularly throughout their lives. Modern research suggests a possible connection between moringa compounds and the body's natural inflammatory response, the same chronic inflammation that scientists now understand as one of the primary accelerators of the aging process. Studies also suggest moringa may support healthy blood sugar levels, cardiovascular function, and cellular protection from oxidative damage. Research indicates possible connections between moringa leaf compounds and the body's natural ability to protect and repair cells as they age. But here's what moves me most about moringa. It didn't grow in palace gardens. It didn't belong to emperors or royalty. It grew in villages, near ordinary people, available to everyone who needed it. When ancient healers planted it specifically so that the poorest and oldest members of their communities would never be without access to its benefits. That's not just medicine. That's compassion expressed through a plant. And 4,000 years later, modern science is finally beginning to understand what those ancient village healers already knew. Always consult a qualified medical professional before making any decisions about your health. But pay attention to moringa, because this one genuinely earned its reputation as the tree of life. There is an old saying in Sri Lanka that goes like this: 2 leaves of Gotu kola a day keeps old age away. Now that sounds like folklore. It sounds like the kind of thing grandmothers say to get children to eat their vegetables. But when you trace where that saying comes from and what's behind it, you discover something that's far more interesting than a simple proverb. It comes from centuries of watching elephants. Ancient Sri Lankan healers noticed something remarkable about elephants living in regions where Gotu kola grew abundantly. The elephants ate it consistently and regularly, and elephants, as every ancient culture observed, lived extraordinarily long lives with sharp memories and powerful bodies well into old age. Ancient healers made a connection, and they started using Gotu kola themselves, daily, consistently, for generations. Traditional Ayurvedic and Chinese medicine both independently identified Gotu kola as one of their most important longevity herbs. Ancient practitioners prescribed it specifically for aging-related concerns: failing memory, weakening skin, slowing circulation, and declining mental clarity. Chinese traditional medicine records describe a herbalist named Li Qing Yuan, who reportedly consumed Gotu kola daily as part of a longevity practice that practitioners still reference today. Whether the stories are literal or legendary, what matters is that this plant earned a profound reputation across multiple ancient medical traditions simultaneously. Modern research is now investigating why. Studies suggest a possible connection between Gotu kola compounds and the body's natural collagen synthesis process. Collagen production is directly linked to skin elasticity and firmness, 2 things that visibly decline with aging. Research also suggests a possible connection between Gotu kola and healthy circulation, which supports both brain function and skin appearance as we age. Traditional records indicate it was historically used for wound healing, memory support, and maintaining skin thickness and strength in aging populations. Here's what's remarkable about Gotu kola. Elephants didn't read ancient texts. They didn't follow prescriptions. They simply ate what their bodies were drawn to instinctively. And ancient healers were wise enough to watch, learn, and follow their example. Sometimes the most profound medical wisdom doesn't come from laboratories. Sometimes it comes from simply paying attention to the world around you. Next is a fruit so packed with one specific nutrient that ancient healers considered it the ultimate weapon against aging. There is a fruit that ancient Indian healers considered so sacred that they built an entire branch of traditional medicine around it. A fruit that appears in some of the oldest Ayurvedic texts ever written as the single most important anti-aging food in existence. A fruit that Hindu mythology describes as the first tree to appear on Earth. And when modern nutritional science finally analyzed what's actually inside this fruit, they discovered something that made complete sense of that ancient reverence. This is amla, also known as Indian gooseberry, and what's inside it genuinely earns its legendary reputation. Amla has been at the absolute center of Ayurvedic medicine for over 5,000 years. Ancient Indian healers didn't just recommend it occasionally. They considered it the cornerstone of their entire approach to longevity. Traditional Ayurvedic texts describe amla as a rasayanam, which translates roughly as a substance that rejuvenates the body from the inside out. Ancient practitioners prescribed it specifically for aging-related concerns, including thinning hair, weakening skin, declining eyesight, and fading mental sharpness. Elderly patients were given amla preparations daily as a foundational anti-aging protocol that practitioners trusted above almost everything else in their entire pharmacopoeia. And here's what caught modern researchers' attention. Amla contains an extraordinarily high concentration of vitamin C, one of the most important nutrients for collagen production in the human body. Collagen is what keeps skin firm, hair strong, and connective tissue resilient, and its production declines steadily and significantly with every year of aging. Research suggests a possible connection between regular amla consumption and the body's natural ability to maintain collagen synthesis as it ages. So studies also suggest a possible connection between amla compounds and healthy hair follicle function, scalp circulation, and hair pigmentation. Three things that aging consistently and visibly attacks. Traditional records indicate amla oil was historically massaged into scalps daily by Indian women across generations who maintained thick, strong hair well into old age. But here's what strikes me most about amla. Ancient Indian healers identified this single small green fruit as their most powerful anti-aging tool 5,000 years ago. Before laboratories, before nutritional science, before anyone understood what vitamin C even was, they simply watched what it did, generation after generation, and they never stopped trusting it. That kind of track record doesn't happen by accident. Next is a plant that Vikings carried into the harshest conditions on Earth to stay strong when everything around them was trying to break them down. Imagine sailing into the Arctic, temperatures so brutal they freeze the breath in your lungs, storms so violent they swallow entire ships whole, months at sea with no certainty of survival, no warmth, no comfort, nothing but ice, darkness, and the relentless physical and mental punishment of one of the harshest environments on Earth. Now imagine that before every single one of those voyages, Viking warriors prepared themselves with a specific plant. Not a weapon, not armor, a plant. Because they understood something about surviving extreme conditions that modern science is only now beginning to fully appreciate. That plant was rhodiola, and the Vikings weren't the only ones who discovered it. Ancient Siberian healers used rhodiola for centuries before Viking explorers ever set sail. Traditional Chinese medicine records reference it as a high-altitude endurance herb carried by mountain communities living in conditions that would break ordinary bodies. Ancient Scandinavian practitioners prescribed it specifically for physical exhaustion, mental fatigue, and what they described as the aging that stress brings upon the body prematurely. Multiple ancient cultures living in the world's most extreme environments independently arrived at the same plant. And that pattern of independent discovery is always worth paying close attention to. Here's why that matters for aging. Modern research now recognizes something called stress-induced aging, the process by which chronic physical and mental stress accelerates cellular aging far beyond what time alone would cause. Every period of prolonged stress essentially adds invisible years to your body. Research suggests a possible connection between rhodiola compounds and the body's natural ability to regulate its stress response system. Studies indicate rhodiola may support mental clarity, physical endurance, and emotional resilience, all things that chronic stress and aging simultaneously attack. Traditional records indicate rhodiola was historically used for fatigue recovery, mental sharpness under pressure, and maintaining physical strength in aging warriors and mountain communities who needed their bodies to perform reliably in punishing conditions. The Vikings who carried it across the Arctic weren't being superstitious. They were being strategic. They had discovered through generations of brutal experience that this plant helped their bodies resist exactly what extreme living was trying to do to them. Next is a plant so sweet that it was found perfectly preserved inside ancient Egyptian tombs thousands of years old. In 1922, archaeologists broke through the sealed entrance of Tutankhamun's tomb. Inside, they found treasures beyond imagination: gold, jewels, sacred artifacts, objects of extraordinary value carefully preserved for the afterlife of an Egyptian king. And among everything placed inside that tomb, to accompany a pharaoh into eternity, they found licorice root, perfectly preserved, thousands of years old, still recognizable. Think about that for a moment. When Egyptian priests chose what was valuable enough to place inside a king's tomb, they chose licorice root alongside gold. Ancient Egyptian medical texts describe licorice root as a universal medicine used for everything from digestive complaints to respiratory problems to skin conditions. Ancient Chinese medical practitioners independently identified it as one of their most important harmonizing herbs, used in more traditional Chinese medicine formulas than almost any other single plant. Ancient Greek physicians prescribed it for respiratory infections and throat problems. Three of the greatest ancient medical traditions on Earth independently arrived at the same root, and that level of agreement across completely separate civilizations always signals something real. Modern research is now investigating what ancient practitioners observed. Studies suggest a possible connection between licorice root compounds and the body's natural inflammatory response. Research also indicates a possible connection between a specific compound called glabridin found in licorice root and skin pigmentation. Glabridin has been studied for its potential role in supporting even skin tone and protecting against the uneven pigmentation that aging consistently produces on skin over time. Traditional records indicate licorice root was historically used for skin clarity, respiratory health, digestive comfort, and as a general restorative tonic for aging bodies that had lost their natural vitality and resilience. Here's what the Egyptian priests understood that we forgot somewhere along the way. In the most powerful medicines don't always look impressive. Sometimes they look like a simple brown root sitting quietly among the gold. Next is a berry so unusual that ancient Chinese healers gave it a name that tells you everything you need to know about what it does. There is a berry in traditional Chinese medicine that has a name unlike anything else in the entire history of natural healing. Ancient Chinese practitioners called it Wu Wei Zi, which translates directly as the five-flavor fruit, because this single berry simultaneously tastes sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and pungent all at once. And ancient healers believed that a plant carrying all five flavors was doing something inside the body that no single flavor plant could ever achieve alone. They weren't wrong. And the story of who trusted this berry most tells you everything about what it was actually doing. Chinese empresses and noblewomen of ancient royal courts used schisandra as their most closely guarded beauty secret. Court records describe women consuming schisandra, preparations daily for decades, and maintaining skin that appeared dramatically younger than their actual age. Ancient practitioners prescribed it specifically for what they described as the five organ systems simultaneously, believing that true anti-aging required supporting the liver, heart, lungs, kidneys, and mind all together rather than addressing them separately. This holistic understanding of aging was centuries ahead of what Western medicine would eventually conclude on its own. And modern research is now investigating why schisandra earned such an extraordinary reputation. Studies suggest a possible connection between schisandra compounds called lignans and the liver's natural detoxification processes. This matters profoundly for aging because the liver filters everything that circulates through your body. and a liver functioning optimally directly affects skin clarity, energy levels, and cellular health throughout the entire system. Research also suggests a possible connection between Schisandra and the body's natural stress response regulation, the same pathway that, when dysregulated, accelerates visible aging consistently. Traditional records indicate Schisandra was historically used for skin radiance, mental sharpness, physical endurance, and maintaining overall vitality in aging court women who were judged harshly on their appearance remaining youthful. Here's what strikes me about Schisandra. Chinese empresses had access to every luxury, every medicine, every treatment available in one of the most sophisticated civilizations in human history. And they chose this berry above everything else for their anti-aging rituals. That's not tradition. That's a recommendation from the most demanding beauty critics in ancient history. Next is a plant considered so sacred that three of the world's greatest civilizations independently declared it holy. There are very few plants in human history that multiple, completely separate civilizations independently declared sacred. Not useful, not medicinal, sacred, worthy of temples, worthy of daily ritual, worthy of being planted at the entrance of homes as protection and blessing. And when you find a plant that achieved that level of reverence across cultures that never communicated with each other, you pay very close attention to what it actually does. Holy basil, Tulsi, and its story begins not in one ancient civilization, but in three simultaneously. In ancient India, Tulsi was planted in the center courtyard of every Hindu household, not in the garden, in the center, the most important position. Ancient Ayurvedic practitioners considered it the queen of herbs, their single most important plant for protecting the body from the stresses that age it prematurely. In ancient Greece, basil was considered a royal herb so precious that only kings were permitted to harvest it using golden sickles. Ancient Egyptian healers incorporated it into their most sacred purification and healing rituals. Three civilizations, three completely independent conclusions, one plant. And here's what connects all three of those ancient observations to aging specifically. Modern research suggests a possible connection between holy basil compounds and the body's natural response to cellular stress, a process scientists now call oxidative stress that operates quietly at the cellular level and represents one of the primary mechanisms through which aging damages the body from the inside out. Studies indicate holy basil may support the body's natural antioxidant defense systems that protect cells from this ongoing damage. Research also suggests a possible connection between holy basil and the body's cortisol regulation, the stress hormone that, when chronically elevated, accelerates aging visibly and internally faster than almost any other single factor. Traditional records indicate Tulsi was historically used in Ayurvedic medicine as an adaptogen, a substance that helps the body maintain balance and resilience when stress tries to overwhelm its natural systems. Ancient Indian families who kept Tulsi in the center of their homes weren't just following religious tradition. They were surrounding themselves daily with a plant that traditional healers trusted to protect their bodies from the invisible damage that stress and time consistently inflict. Always consult a qualified medical professional before making any decisions about your health. But understand this. When something is considered sacred by three separate ancient civilizations, that reverence was earned through thousands of years of watching it work. Next is a spice so extraordinarily valuable that wars were fought over it and kings considered it worthy of their most sacred rituals. There is a spice that has been worth more than gold by weight for most of recorded human history. A spice so labor-intensive to produce that a single pound requires the hand harvesting of over 75,000 individual flowers. A spice that ancient Persian kings spread across their royal beds, that Cleopatra bathed in before meeting Julius Caesar, that Alexander the Great used to treat his battle wounds, that ancient Kashmiri healers guarded so carefully that stealing saffron crops was punishable by death. This is saffron. When the question worth asking is simple. Why? Why did the most powerful people in human history consider these tiny red threads worth more than precious metals? Because they worked. And what they worked on most profoundly was something every powerful person feared more than any enemy: the aging of their own mind. Ancient Persian and Kashmiri healers prescribed saffron specifically for what they described as darkness of the mind, the sadness, mental fog, and emotional heaviness that traditionally accompanied aging and loss. Ancient practitioners steeped the threads in warm milk and consumed them as a daily mental clarity ritual that royal courts maintained consistently across generations. Traditional Ayurvedic texts describe saffron as a substance that brightens the mind the way sunlight brightens a darkened room. Modern research is now revealing why ancient healers made that specific observation. Studies suggest a possible connection between saffron compounds and the brain's natural mood regulation chemistry. Clinical research indicates saffron may support emotional well-being and mental clarity in ways that researchers describe as genuinely significant. Research also suggests a possible connection between saffron and eye health preservation, protecting the visual system from the age-related deterioration that consistently diminishes quality of life in elderly populations. Traditional records indicate saffron was historically used for cognitive sharpness, emotional balance, skin luminosity, and maintaining mental vitality in aging members of royal courts who demanded their minds remain as powerful as their positions required. Here's what moves me about saffron. The most powerful rulers in human history, people who had access to everything, chose to protect their aging minds with these tiny golden threads. Not with power, not with wealth, with a plant. Next is the one I saved for last, and it genuinely deserves to be there. We have arrived at number 15, and I want you to understand something before I tell you what this is. Everything on this list earned its place. Every single plant we discussed today has thousands of years of traditional use behind it, and modern research beginning to investigate and validate what ancient healers observed. But this last one is different, because this one didn't just earn a reputation for healing. Only it earned a reputation for something that no other plant in human history has ever been trusted with as consistently and as seriously across as many civilizations simultaneously. It earned a reputation for extending human life itself. This is reishi mushroom, and its story is unlike anything else we have discussed today. For over 4,000 years, reishi has occupied a completely unique position in traditional Chinese medicine. Not as a common herb, not as a useful remedy, as the supreme protector. Ancient Chinese medical texts placed reishi at the absolute top of their entire classification system for natural medicines. Above ginseng, above every herb, above every other plant they had studied and trusted for millennia. Ancient Chinese emperors sent expeditions into remote mountain ranges specifically to find wild reishi because it grew rarely and unpredictably and was nearly impossible to cultivate. Imperial court physicians kept reishi preparations exclusively for the emperor and the royal family. Common people were forbidden from accessing it, not because of law alone, but because supply was so scarce that what little existed was considered too precious for ordinary consumption. Ancient Taoist monks consumed reishi as the centerpiece of their longevity practices. They described it as the plant of spiritual potency, believing it simultaneously strengthened the body, calmed the mind, and extended the natural lifespan beyond what ordinary existence allowed. Paintings and sculptures from ancient Chinese imperial periods consistently depicted reishi as a symbol of immortality, good fortune, and divine protection. This wasn't casual symbolism. This was a civilization's highest expression of what they believed this mushroom represented and delivered. And here's where the story becomes genuinely extraordinary. Because modern researchers who began studying reishi weren't expecting to find much. They were investigating ancient claims with contemporary skepticism. What they discovered made them look twice. Research suggests a possible connection between reishi compounds called triterpenes and polysaccharides and the body's natural immune regulation systems. If studies indicate reishi may support the immune system's ability to maintain its protective function as it ages, because immune decline is now understood as one of the central mechanisms through which aging increases vulnerability to disease and deterioration. Research also suggests a possible connection between reishi and the body's natural inflammatory response, sleep quality regulation, and cellular protection from oxidative damage. 3 systems that aging attacks simultaneously and relentlessly. Traditional records indicate reishi was historically used for fatigue, respiratory strength, mental clarity, emotional calm, and what ancient practitioners described as restoring the fundamental life force that aging gradually depletes from the body over time. I'd always consult a qualified medical professional before making any decisions about your health. But here is what I want you to sit with as we close this list. Chinese emperors who commanded the most powerful civilization on earth for thousands of years believed reishi was precious enough to forbid common people from accessing it. Taoist monks who dedicated their entire lives to the pursuit of longevity built their practices around it. Ancient physicians who had studied every plant available to them placed it above everything else without hesitation. 4,000 years. Multiple civilizations. One consistent conclusion. Some things earn their reputation not through marketing or trend cycles, but through the oldest and most reliable testing method in human history. Generations of people watching carefully, trusting what worked, and passing that knowledge forward to protect the people they loved. Reishi earned its place at the top of this list the same way it earned its place at the top of ancient medicine, through thousands of years of quiet, consistent, extraordinary results. So here we are, 15 plants, thousands of years of human wisdom, and one pattern that runs through every single story we told today. Ancient healers didn't have laboratories. They didn't have clinical trials or peer-reviewed research or sophisticated equipment. What they had was something arguably more powerful. Generations of careful observation, communities watching what worked, passing that knowledge forward to protect the people they love most. And what modern science is discovering slowly and systematically is that those ancient observers were right, again and again and again. That's not coincidence. That's wisdom that survived because it deserved to survive. Now here's what I want you to do. If this video changed the way you think about plants, aging, and the intelligence of ancient healing traditions, smash that like button right now. It takes 1 second and it helps this knowledge reach people who genuinely need it. Drop a comment below and tell me which plant surprised you most today. Was it moringa, reishi, rhodiola? I read every single comment and I genuinely love hearing from you. And if you haven't subscribed to Rooted Remedies yet, hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell. Because the best of what ancient wisdom and modern knowledge can teach us together is just getting started.